The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
So I'm going to back up a little bit and reiterate that our session has started. We are in record mode. For logistics, please insert technical issues in the chat box, questions and comments in the question and comment box. We'll remain on the line till after 4 o'clock for questions, but we have a large number of attendees at this session and a large number of presenters as well. So it's not likely that we'll get through all your questions. However, we promise that in one way or another, your questions will be addressed. The session has been recorded and all handouts will be on our CEELO website. You can expect those available for your review by tomorrow morning. Questions go in the question box. Chat is reserved for technical issues, and I'm going to be checking on those in just a moment. Lori, take it away.
Well, thanks so much. That was Jana Martella, the co-director of the Center on Enhancing Early Learning Outcomes, and my name is Lori Connors-Tadros. We're so pleased to welcome you, many of you from states and localities across the country, with our federal partners and state presenters today. This is a historic opportunity that we in the early childhood field have to be recognized as an important part of the federal education system and to address opportunity to reduce inequities in how young children learn. The purpose of this webinar is to share with you the recently released non-regulatory guidance around ESSA and integrating early learning. We want to give a very profound thank you to Libby Doggett, Stephen Hicks, and Chris Ann Gale, who really used their own clout and will to ensure that early childhood was a very important part of the conversation around the Every Student Succeed Act. In order for us to realize that actual hope and challenge, we really need to ensure that we are systematically and strategically including early childhood in every state plan and subsequently the LEA plans. We're hoping with this webinar and the resources that we'll share and the strategies that states will share to provide you with tools and resources to influence your state's plan, to ensure there's a strong footprint, if you will, for early childhood policy and priority, and to encourage you and give you the tools and resources to inform and influence your own state plan. So very shortly you will hear from Libby, Stephen, and Chris Ann to provide an overview of this very comprehensive early learning guidance that has an amazing amount of resources. We are very, very fortunate to have John Pruitt from North Carolina, Sharon Trioli Maloney from Colorado, Nicole Russell from Arizona, and representatives of the National Association of Early Childhood Specialists and Deb Adams from Connecticut to provide some state perspectives. And as Jana said, we really encourage you to submit your questions and we will provide responses to them. So we're really looking forward to a jam-packed hour and 15 minutes, and we'll go to the next slide. Wanted to just point out a couple of things in CEELO's role. For those of you who might be new to CEELO, we are the Center on Enhancing Early Learning Outcomes. We are in our 5th year of funding as one of the department's 22 comprehensive center technical assistants. Our job is to support state education agencies and their partners at the state and local level in addressing outcomes for children birth to 3rd grade. Once ESSA was launched, we began to scan the state websites and information so that we could be sure we understood what the needs were, with a particular lens on early learning. So on our page, you will find all the resources that are being produced by federal folks, state folks, and other national orgs that are specific to guidance around early learning. In addition, you will find resources that we've developed on, for example, family engagement or best practice in pre-K to grade 3, or in instructional leadership, you will find resources there. So we do encourage you to check out that website. Currently, there are 4 states that have publicly posted their draft ESSA plan. We've taken a look at those. Washington has done a very comprehensive job with an early learning work group to really intentionally look at how early childhood can be addressed. You'll be hearing from North Carolina and Arizona in a minute. And the 4th state is Illinois, who's really looked at pre-K to grade 12 as the scope of their education work. We'll be posting those state plans on our website and other materials that can support you as you continue to work forward. We're working in partnership with the Council of Chief State School Officers and other national orgs, and we're planning to develop additional tools for reviewing of state plans as they become available, developing guidance and toolkits for SEAs and LEAs, and continuing to provide an analysis so we can elevate how early childhood, again, those first 4 grades, pre-K through grade 3, really contribute to ensuring every child succeeds. So with that, I'd like to turn this over to our partner and strong collaborator, Rolf Grafwellner, who is now the Director of Early Childhood Initiatives at the Council of Chief State School Officers.
Thank you, Lori. Good afternoon. Yeah, I'm here in Washington, D.C. with the Council of Chief State School Officers. And for many of you who are listening to this webinar, you are with a state agency, and we're working with your chiefs on issues related to ESSA and early childhood education, as well as, of course, education reform efforts. Here at the Council, over this year, early childhood education was elevated to be one of the priorities that we're looking at in supporting the chiefs in their efforts to incorporate early learning and early childhood education into their ESSA plans, among other things. And of course, what we want here at the Council is to emphasize that it is an equitable plan, that the early learning opportunities and access to them is available to all students, and that is, of course, also the focus for our youngest learners. The other area that we are focusing in on is on generating and promoting a shared research-based vision of equity, promoting teaching and learning in pre-kindergarten to grade 3. And then, of course, we're always available as a membership organization to work with your chiefs, with your chief academic officers, and others to work on a federal-state partnership in managing and improving early childhood programs across the board as it relates to either federal programs or state programs. I'm honored to be on this webinar and to work with CEELO, who has done tremendous work in supporting states in early childhood education. And now I want to introduce Deb Adams with the National Association for Early Childhood Specialists at State Departments of Education.
Thank you, Ralph. What a mouthful to say our name, and good afternoon, everyone. The National Association of Early Childhood Specialists in State Departments of Education and/or State Offices of Early Childhood provide leadership in early childhood policy development and state implementation. And as past president and current co-chair of the Association Policy Committee, we're extraordinarily happy to partner with CEELO today in bringing you this webinar on a very important topic. It's our pleasure to introduce the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Early Learning at the U.S. Department of Education and an early childhood champion, Libby Doggett. So take it away, Libby.
Thank you, Deb. Thank you, Rolf, Lori, and Jana. And thanks to all our other national partners, and particularly thanks to the state leaders who've gotten on. We really appreciate all you've done. We're delighted to be having this webinar. We hope it's the first of a couple that we want to do, because we think this does offer such an incredible opportunity to make a better case, to provide more services, to bring about better alignment, to train our educators using the ESSA as dollars and as a platform. So I think you all can see that we went through very, very carefully the old law and added early learning as much as we could. I know you all helped us do that. And then once the law was out, we went back through it, looked at your comments, which we appreciate so much. We talked to you through focus groups, and really incorporated many of the ideas that you all have had and have given us. So thank you very much. I think this is a celebration of our collective work. I think that the good and the bad of the new law is that a lot of the power now goes back to the states and the local communities. So it's back in your hands, states, and we really want to do what we can to help you use this law as much as possible to really look at what you've done before and make sure it's good. And if it's not, let's get some of those dollars into programs that really work, and we know early learning is one of those programs. I think you'll also see a real clear framework for the law in going from P, which could be prenatal to third grade, or it could be preschool to third grade, depending on how you want to approach it. But you can see that we've really worked to try to assure that there's alignment, because we all know that a continuous approach to learning from preschool through third grade and beyond, including aligned standards and curriculum and instructional approaches and assessments, really will make a difference for children. And that without that alignment, children are going to have discontinuities and disruptions in their learning. So we hope you will use it in those ways. I'm really fortunate to have an amazing team throughout the Department of Education. But the two people who helped the most on this were Stephen Hicks and Chris Angale. And so they're going to join me, and they did the bulk of the work on the new guidance, and they're going to join me in explaining it. So I'm going to turn it over now to Stephen.
Great. Thanks so much, Libby. We're really happy to be able to be presenting this today and sharing with states and local communities on how they can use early learning accessibility through ESSA. I'm going to talk about the first section, expanding access to high-quality early learning, and there are really 4 sub-parts to that. The first one is Title I preschool. The second is around charter schools. The third is around the preschool development grants as it is written in ESSA, and then the programs that are available for various special populations. I want to say that this section covers, if you're looking at your guidance, pages 9 through 16. In the Title I preschool section, many of you are familiar with the 2012 non-regulatory guidance on Title I preschool that we put out. I want you to know that for the 2016-2017 school year, that guidance is still applicable and valid. After that, we will be making adjustments to that guidance that we'll have available online to help with those questions that you may have as you work to implement Title I preschool. And then eventually we hope to have revised guidance for that because this non-regulatory guidance that we've just put out on early learning in ESSA, it only has a small section on Title I, but we think it covers the main points. As you are aware, Title I can be used for serving children prior to the time when the state offers a free and public education, so usually children from birth to kindergarten. You can have a school-operated program, whether it be school-wide or targeted assistance, and then districts can offer Title I preschool programs either as a district as a whole or a portion of the district. And we have a chart in the guidance that kind of explains those different areas, in addition to how you can use Title I funds for coordination with other early childhood programs. And there's also an example from Montgomery County, Maryland, of how they have used Title I funds to support young children in preschool. This is one of many examples that are throughout the non-regulatory guidance that we hope will help as states and local communities create their plans and create their reform efforts. So Title I preschool, Title I funds may also be used for professional learning for early childhood staff, for minor repairs or remodeling to accommodate for preschool programs. They can also be used for health, nutrition, and other comprehensive services for children in a Title I program. And then it should be noted that these funds are, for Title I, as you are probably already aware, are to support children at risk of failing to meet the state standards by improving the quality of those programs. So besides preschool programs, they can also be used to improve the quality of kindergarten programs. For example, extending a half-day program to a full day. And as we know, preschool is not an inoculation and must be continued with really strong early education programs in the elementary school years. So these funds can also be used to improve the quality of first through third grade programs, such as providing professional learning opportunities for staff on child development or expanding the effectiveness of family engagement strategies. The next area is charter schools, and Title IV of the ESSA provides continued opportunity to serve preschool children through the charter schools program. And it amends the charter school program definition of charter school to include schools that serve students in early childhood education programs, in addition to providing a program in elementary or secondary education or both, as determined by state law. You will want to check your individual education laws as far as how preschool children are addressed in the definition of elementary and secondary education, as whether the preschool children can be served outside an elementary school. The next area is preschool development grants. As you know, we have a current preschool development grant program where we're we've provided grants for 18 states, working in over 230 communities. This is a little bit different the way it was envisioned in ESSA, but it is a discretionary grant program for states to improve the coordination and quality, as well as access to early childhood education programs for children from birth through to age 5. It is still jointly administered by Education and the Department of Health and Human Services, and it does build on the original vision of the preschool development grants, but it is slightly different, and you really should take a look at that section to see the two different kinds of grants that are provided. There are initial grants for 1 year, and there are renewal grants that are for 3 years. The next area in this section of expanding early learning opportunities is around special population, and these are similar to what has always been opportunities in ESSA, but there are a few different changes, especially in the first two areas of children who are experiencing homelessness or children in foster care. And that has to do with children who might move, their families may move, that they have the opportunity to go to their school of origin. So for example, if you're a child in a homeless family or in foster care, you've moved and you were attending a preschool program, then the district must help to make arrangements for you to continue to go back to your previous school. For example, if you don't have the opportunity to attend a preschool in your new area for which you've moved. And it is dependent upon the best interests of the child and the family choice, etc. But that is a new provision that has been always for kindergarten through 12th grade students, and now it's extended to preschool age students. There are also provisions to support migratory children, new provisions to support English learners and immigrant children, and we have several grant programs that support children who come from American Indian communities, who are Alaska Natives, and who are Native Hawaiians. And now I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Chris-Ann Gale.
Great, thank you so much, Stephen. The second part of our guidance is entitled Encouraging Alignment, Collaboration, and Coordination. And for those of you who are looking at the guidance document, this section can be found from pages 16 through 22. This section is focused on the coordination and collaboration across programs for early learning. In this section, we discuss the requirements that pertain to coordination and collaboration, We also suggest some strategies that states and school districts could consider to promote coordination and collaboration that are not necessarily requirements in the new law. And then we also provide some examples from states and local communities who we think are doing a good job with respect to coordination and collaboration. So first, if we look at the requirements that are in the law, SEAs, or state education agencies, are required to coordinate with other programs that provide services for young children. So states need to coordinate their education program with the Child Care Development Block Grant, with Head Start, and with IDEA, all of which serve children, serve young children. Secondly, states and local education agencies are also required to include in their report cards the number and percentage of children that are enrolled in preschool programs. And the purpose of this data is to identify potential gaps in access to preschool services and to facilitate greater awareness about the continuum of learning between early learning and the elementary grades. Secondly, there are some requirements related to collaboration with Head Start. A local education agency that receives Title I funds is required to coordinate with Head Start programs, and also, if feasible, with other early learning programs that serve children who will then attend a local education agency. Local education agencies are also now responsible for developing agreements, such as Memorandum of Understanding, with Head Start programs to coordinate services. These services may be related to data reporting or data sharing. They could involve transition activities for children and families moving from Head Start into the public school programs. But all of those now need to be detailed in an agreement between the local school district and the Head Start program. In addition to the explicit uses and requirements that are outlined in ESSA, we also offer some ideas for states and local school districts to consider that we believe are in keeping with the overall goals of the new law. First, we suggest examining policies, procedures, and practices to ensure access to and participation of preschool children with disabilities in inclusive preschool classrooms. And the Department of Education, along with the Department of Health and Human Services, has a detailed policy statement on inclusion of children with disabilities in preschool classrooms, which we do reference in the guidance. Secondly, we encourage state education agencies to coordinate with their state advisory council on early childhood education and care, or otherwise known as the SACs, which are charged with ensuring coordination and collaboration of early childhood programs and services in the state. And finally, we also mention coordination of local programs and services through our place-based initiatives, such as the Promise Neighborhoods program and the Full Service Community Schools grant program. Both of those programs were reauthorized in ESSA under Title IV of that law. And I just wanted to highlight, too, the new Preschool Development Grants program, which Stephen mentioned. The initial grants, which are one of the two types of grants in this new Preschool Development Grant program, the purpose of those initial grants are to help promote program coordination between existing federal, state, and local early learning programs through activities such as aligning and strengthening those programs, coordinating delivery models and funding streams across a mixed delivery system, improving program quality, and also increasing the overall participation of young children in programs. And as Stephen mentioned, these are competitive discretionary grants, and the initial grants that I just mentioned are 1 year in duration. And lastly, we strongly encourage stakeholders to think about their vertical alignment of programs, standards, and systems as they put together, in particular, their state plans. We encourage states in developing their plans to think about how to vertically and horizontally align their programs as well as their grades. We also note that with the increased flexibility that Libby mentioned that ESSA provides states, there's a new opportunity now for states and local school districts to think about how to build a stronger continuum of learning from preschool through the early elementary school grades, and to really think about how early learning can help to support a state school improvement system, their accountability plans, etc. So we certainly encourage early learning to be a part of the conversation at the state level as you're developing your plans. And then finally, we also note that in ESSA there is a requirement that states need to describe in their state plan how they will provide assistance to local school districts and schools on how to support early childhood education programs. So that is a particular requirement that is in ESSA specifically around how the state will support local schools and districts to actually support early childhood education. And with that, I'd like to turn it back to my colleague Libby, who's going to talk about supporting educators.
Great. Thank you, Kristen. Thank you, Stephen, for your work on this. So if you're following along in your guidance, it's on pages 23 to 27. And we're very excited about this whole provision because I think all of us know that this is where there is could be some significant help with ESSA dollars. So particularly given the National Academy's report stating that all teachers, primary teachers or all lead teachers should have a BA degree, we know that, and we know that there's a long way to go in terms of getting all teachers to that point. We're excited that these funds can be used in this way. So states and LEAs can use funds available under Titles 1, 2, and 3. Title 2 is the big one, but there are other ways that you can use the other funds to support educators as well. Under each title, the program funds have specific uses and limitations, so you have to be careful to be sure you serve the eligible children, that the resources that you tap are in line with what the law requires. But in each of these areas, they can be used to support teachers, administrators, and other staff to help them learn new skills and improve their instructional practices. So on the next slide, we'll see how Title I can be used. There are 3 different ways. One is for teachers who are in a Title I preschool program who need training to meet the educational needs of Title I eligible children. That's obvious. But it also can be used to provide professional development for teachers in preschool programs that don't receive Title I funds. This includes community-based programs, provided that the children attending that program are likely to attend the Title I elementary school when they're eligible to enter kindergarten. And then third point I want to make here is that in this case, the purpose of the professional development must be to improve the coordination between the non-Title I preschool and the Title I elementary school, or to facilitate the child's transition from preschool to elementary school. So it's pretty exciting to see that. Also, as you would imagine, Title I can be used for kindergarten through 3rd grade professional development of teachers and administrators as well. So the next slide shows us about how it can be used in Title II. And this is where there are significant dollars. I think the funding last year was $2.3 billion. So there is money, but it obviously needs to go for lots of teachers because we want all of our teachers to be strong and have the professional support they need. Title I Part A funds can be used to support professional development of early educators, and it's explicitly stated this time in the law, so that's a new change. These funds have a wide variety of possible applications for SEAs and LEAs, and I'll go over a few. For the first time, they allow LEAs to support joint professional development and planning activities designed to increase the ability of principals and other school leaders to support teachers, teacher leaders, and early childhood educators and other professionals to meet the needs of students through age 3, on up. They can support LEAs to increase teachers, principals, and other school leaders' knowledge base regarding instruction. They can provide LEA training to support the identification of students who are gifted and talented and implementing instructional practices that support the education of these students, and allowing SEAs to support opportunities for principals, other school leaders, teachers, paraprofessionals, early childhood education program directors, and other early childhood educators to participate in joint efforts to address the transition to elementary school. So it's pretty significant change there. We're excited about it. I think it will offer you some opportunities. There's also another provision in Title II, Subpart 2 of that title, the Literacy Education for All Results for the Nation. It's called LEARN Act. It's similar to the old Striving Readers Comprehensive Literacy Program, and like the Striving Readers, it's to provide competitive awards to SEAs, so they have to compete for it, to support comprehensive literacy instruction. And we're excited because in that provision, there's a requirement that 50% of the funds need to be spent on early learning, defined as birth to kindergarten entry. And these are funds, to provide high-quality professional development, training to administrators and others around comprehensive reading and writing for children birth to grade 12. And then the next slide, and my last one, shows how Title III funds can be used for early learning. And this is new as well. It's pretty exciting. We've had wonderful support from our OELA office. They have wanted to provide and have been very helpful in providing help for immigrant and dual language learners, and have worked closely as our partners. So we're delighted to have these aspects in the law. So as a part of Title III, there are two aspects. One is there is formula money that goes out, and this money can be used to provide training and support for teachers of English learners or ELs. So professional development to improve their skills, their knowledge of, and it can include, as I've said, preschool teachers. Then there's also a provision that in the Title III that's called the National Professional Development Project, and it's a competitive grant program authorized under Title III. And this provides grants to institutions of higher education in partnership with LEAs to improve pre-service and in-service support for all educators who serve ELs. And grants here will support professional development activities that will improve classroom instruction for ELs, assist educational personnel in meeting high professional standards, and improve their qualifications and skills. So we're excited about all of those provisions and think they offer you some opportunities to put together some very, very strong plans for improving the workforce in our area. Now I'm delighted to pass it off to one of our many great state leaders that are on the call, John Pruitt from North Carolina. John, take it away.
Hey, thanks, Libby. I'm glad to be with you here today. And first, let me send along regrets from Tracy Zimmerman. You see her picture on the slide. She's one of my partners in the work that we're doing here in North Carolina around our early childhood inclusion of priorities in the ESSA plan, and she had an unavoidable conflict that came up at the last minute. So I will do my best to fill in for her in her slides. Tracy is the executive director of the North Carolina Early Childhood Foundation, and as such, she is a tremendous partner for the work that I do here in the Office of Early Learning in the Department of Public Instruction. As a non-governmental agency, she can really be helpful in engaging the early childhood community in very strategic ways. And she has done just that as we have worked to lift early childhood up in our state ESSA plan. So our strategy really has been working together to engage early childhood leaders and advocates. Her group really works as a value add to the state agency work that we're doing. She's been very helpful in employing an informed collaborative process and applying multiple pressure points to the process of the state plan. So next slide, please. That being said, her work around engaging value added, her organization hosted 2 webinars for the North Carolina Birth to 8 leaders that really first brought their attention to the opportunities that existed, and 2, looked at sort of lifting up their ideas about what should be included in the state plan. I think it's important to mention that we set out here to have a really strong stakeholder engagement, and that's engagement that's beyond just talking to and telling about, but really listening to who the early childhood stakeholders are in the community and hearing what their ideas are, and then coming to some sense of agreement about what we should uplift in our plan. Next slide, please. The agency or the foundation was really integral in leading us to that work of lifting up common ideas. They brought in an outside expert to facilitate a day-long session that led a collaborative process to identify strategies with key stakeholders. So it's very important to what we've done. Next slide, please. And most importantly, I think one of the roles that that foundation is playing for us is applying multiple pressure points. So through informing the stakeholder community, sharing recommendations with policymakers, through networking, we're starting to hear a lot from outside stakeholders. The State Board of Education is hearing, our department is hearing, the state superintendent, members of the House and the Senate Education Committees are hearing, and the governor's office is hearing from the stakeholders about how important this is. And that absolutely is part of a successful strategy in bringing this into your state plan. Next slide, please. So here's a URL for her foundation if you'd like to visit that foundation, and you can see North Carolina's draft plan and really birth through 8 strategies that we are employing in our work. So next slide. So what is our challenge and opportunity? We're living in a time when our General Assembly here in North Carolina has charged us to develop and implement a statewide vision for early childhood education birth through grade 3. It seems to be a perfect opportunity to leverage the considerable opportunities spelled out in ESSA that challenge the states to address the complexity that is the system of early care and education in our state. That being said, we settled on 3 principles to drive our work. Next slide, please. I'm sorry. Right. That is that the North Carolina General Assembly charged to develop and implement a statewide vision for our early childhood education should be leveraged. We should leverage the considerable opportunities spelled out in ESSA. Next slide, please. Our principles really are around advancing North Carolina General Assembly's mandate to develop a comprehensive approach, to invest in policies that have widespread bipartisan public support, and to promote evidence-based approaches that support children to read at grade level by the end of grade 3. That being said, next slide, the priorities that we are lifting up are around supporting smooth transitions for children as they begin school and through the early grades. There, we're encouraging and supporting districts to create transition plans in collaboration with community stakeholders that create shared understanding between early childhood programs, schools, administrators, and parents of what children should experience between early childhood programs and schools and between kindergarten, 1st, and 2nd grade. Our second priority is to ensure that children learn in environments and through practices that are developmentally appropriate and support their successes. Our third is developing a birth to 8 professional development system that ensures teachers and administrators have skills and knowledge to support young children's learning. And then finally, we're thinking and really promoting implementing accountability measures that reflect the importance of children's early years. That being said, the conversations that we've had about the opportunities in the non-regulatory guidance fit our priorities perfectly. So I'll move forward to our next presenter from Colorado, Sharon Trillo Maloney. So thank you.
Thank you, Don. Good afternoon, everyone, and I'm really pleased to have this opportunity to share with you all some of Colorado's strategy for moving forward to try to get as much of our early learning voice as part of our state plan and also plans in the local school districts. This first slide has a diagram on it that shows you the overall methods and structure of our work so far. You can see there's a hub committee group and then several spoke committees around the outside of the hub there. And a decision was made early on to really try and infuse the early learning aspects of the work throughout all of the spoke committees. So we've been working on ways to put our ideas together and then also have a excuse me, an intentional effort to share those ideas and that information with each of the spoke committees. So the process in Colorado started in the spring with a listening tour that took place across the state. And there, the report from the listening tour, as well as many other resources, are available on the Colorado Department of Education website. There is an ESSA page that includes all of the updates and a link to a newsletter and a blog that was developed and many other resources, including for each of the spoke committees, you'd find a page that lists when they're meeting, their agendas, their notes, and any presentation materials that have been shared with them. So we really have tried to make it as easy as possible for people to stay connected. Now, the spoke committees are the places where the drafting and reviewing and revising of the different sections of the state plan will occur. And then the drafts and the recommendations and the summaries of the state plan will get presented to the hub, and then the hub committee presents on to the governor and the State Board of Education through our process. Next slide, please, Jenna. During November and December, we will be in the midst of the process of modifying and vetting our plan. When ESSA first was passed, it was great to see that it was really a natural partner to our P3 approach to early learning. So we have used it as a tool that helped to bridge that birth to age 5 world of early learning together with the early elementary school grades, preschool through 3rd grade. When the non-regulatory guidance document came out, it was just a boost for all of that work, and it really has done a lot to help define early learning, not just as preschool, but really that full birth to age 8 range. So we have worked with internal groups at the department, and the non-regulatory guidance has helped with that as well, worked closely with many of the other units, including our federal program staff, as well as with some of our main organizations of key early childhood stakeholders, and you see those listed on the slide there. We met with them, we did presentations early on, we have done follow-ups and continue to do that, and we have tried to identify many ways to have ongoing dialogue with these groups. Another key thing we did was to draft 2 tables that listed sections of ESSA and aligned them with P3 recommendations or ideas or considerations that could be made at both the state as well as the LAA level. And our hope really was that this these tables would expand that dialogue even beyond just ESSA, but also stimulate other supports for early learning, again, at the state level as well as locally. And our next step, very quickly here, is that November 11th, we will be pulling together an early learning advisory group of many of the stakeholders to begin to review the draft so far, as well as put a communication plan together so that the vetting and the review of the draft can include as many people as possible, with the ultimate goal of getting some of our early learning voice into our state plan and then help guide the locals as well. So I didn't think I could talk that fast, but with that, I will turn this over now to Nicole in Arizona.
Hi everyone, I'm Nicole Russell with the Arizona Department of Education, where I serve as the Deputy Associate Superintendent for Early Childhood. In Arizona, this position is unique in that while I'm in that role, I'm also the Head Start State Collaboration Director. And one of the great opportunities that I've had is to be part of the writing of Arizona's ESSA plan since its beginning. What you see on the slide before you is a link to Arizona's draft plan, and I think that's an important place for you to go if you'd like information about where Arizona is and what approach we took. If you go to the next slide, you'll see a screenshot of one of the areas that I think is critical for review if you're interested to see what Arizona is doing. There you'll see there's a drop-down button where it says Arizona ESSA Plan Development Timeline. As you can see in the timeline, back in May, we began gathering stakeholder and public feedback. We wanted information from stakeholders, and in this case, those in the early childhood community, about what was going to be into the initial draft of our plan, what critical pieces were necessary to ensure that early childhood was well represented in the state plan. Then in about July, we began internal meetings here at the agency, where for each representative of a unit, and so I'm the early childhood unit, met weekly. We've been meeting weekly to work on the initial plan. We put out an initial plan and garnered some feedback, and I must say there were very thoughtful responses from the community. We got tens of thousands of comments from the public around what we were proposing in the ESSA plan. Many of those comments came from early childhood stakeholders. What's great about my position is because I'm here at the agency and I'm charged with overseeing birth through grade 3, I have many relationships with external partners that represent the birth to 5 continuum. We leveraged those relationships to really ensure that every time I attended these meetings and contributed to the writing, I was representing Arizona's early childhood community well. So as the state collab director, the Head Start voice was there, the early Head Start voice. The 619 coordinator is on my staff, so we have our children with disabilities included. I'm on the board for the State Advisory Council. We have many, many local relationships with local collaboratives, like our state literacy collaborative. We have a statewide collaborative, and then at the local level, it's called Read on Arizona. So leveraging those partnerships to ensure in every venue or every meeting I'm in attendance and ESSA comes up, I can take their feedback and bring it here to the agency, and then as the plan is being developed, taking that to our stakeholders so that there's this continuous feedback loop. If you look, we're over in the red section for October and November. Our initial plan was open for public comment. We've taken that feedback and drafted a second plan that will be posted next week. Our plan is that in December we will finalize the plan and send it over to our governor for review so that in January we are ready to submit the plan.
So thank you, Nicole. We're going to move on to our question comment period. We're right at the hour, just as we expected. some of you have already been inserting questions. I want to highlight for you, we also accepted questions and comments in the registration, and we did have 20 or so questions that were submitted. We will try to get to a number of those, but we will also respond to questions that we don't get to in the next 15 minutes or so by email, by adding additional information to our website. Stephen, if you wouldn't mind opening up your line and maybe addressing how, before we start with the questions and answers, addressing how the department will be accepting information, questions, etc.
Great, thanks so much. So we have a website, and it's on page 2 of the guidance, where you can, I'm just looking at this as right, I think that's where it was supposed to be. Well, I don't see it there actually. So, but if you go to essa.ed.gov.essa, there is a way in which folks can solicit questions that they have, and we will collect all those questions. I mean, it's fairly easy. If you go to ed.gov, on the right-hand side, there's a link for the Every Student Succeeds Act, and on that link, which is ed.gov/ESSA, that's our main home landing page for the Every Student Succeeds Act, and we have updates, additional guidance, etc., and links to places where you can ask questions. And there's a link for you to actually send any specific questions. It's essa.questions@ed.gov, essa.questions@ed.gov.
So we will also send that link around to everyone following the webinar.
Yeah, and we have put this guidance out, and we know that once we would put it out, that while we tried to address all the questions and the comments, as Libby mentioned, that folks had given us prior to putting it out, we knew that putting it out would also bring up more questions for folks, which we expected to happen. So we'll be collecting those questions, and then we'll find a way to either update the guidance or provide additional FAQs or supplemental materials so that folks will have the right answers. And we're going to try as well as we can to answer any questions that may pertain to the non-regulatory guidance that's already out. But if there are questions that go beyond what we've already addressed, we'll probably likely have to go back to our general counsel, consult with them, and form the most relevant and accurate answers so that we give proper guidance.
So thank you, Stephen. I think that many of the questions that were submitted prior to the webinar have been addressed. So I think we'll kind of go at this on a first come, first served basis. First question in actually asks, for the state report cards, do states need to report the number and percentage of 4-year-olds served in preschool or 3- and 4-year-olds?
Yeah, so this is Chris Ann. Gail, thank you. That's a great question. That is actually something that I'm not able to answer at this time, and that is because the regulation around state report cards is still has not yet been finally published, and so that particular question relates to a pending regulation which will be finalized in the coming weeks, and then we will provide some additional guidance after that regulation has been published.
Thank you. A number of the questions that have been submitted actually refer to LEA considerations, and I just wanted the audience to know that we will be addressing some of those questions in further phone calls with our state folks, and we'll likely open up a bit for district and school personnel. A question regarding...
Anna,
yes.
I think it'd be helpful, though, for folks really quickly that would like a very nice chart. On our website, there is a document that was produced by the National Association of State Boards of Education. And on page 5 and 6, there's a nice chart that looks at the role and kind of involvement of SDAs versus LEAs. I think it's helpful for the folks from the local level to know that your state education agency is developing a plan, and then we'll be giving guidance, and this differs based on certain of the title funds to LEAs, but there is an opportunity, quite a bit of an opportunity, for you to influence the use of funds at the LEA level.
Great.
Jana, this is Libby. I want to add something that I actually forgot. One of my parts of my presentation was to actually talk to you all about the appendices. And before I do that, in the section on supporting educators, there is a chart there that shows how you can use the Title I, II, and III funds in different ways for different educators. So I want to refer you to that. But then in the appendices are two great resources for you. One is a chart that we're very proud of, which goes through the entire bill and shows what's required, but then goes a step further and says these are options. These things might be possible. And so we were trying to think outside the box, and I know we want you to think outside the box of other ways we can integrate early learning into the law and into what you're doing. So we think that chart is certainly something that you should look at. And then finally, we have resources there in appendices 2. So thank you, and I'm sorry I forgot those.
So thanks, Libby. Actually, appendices are always a great resource at the back of the preschool yearbook, and now in this guidance. I recommend that people maybe go there first, right? We have a question regarding the preschool development grants that I will pose because I know it's on a number of folks' minds, but you may not be able to respond to yet. Have funds been appropriated for the new preschool development grants? And if so, is there a timeline for applying for those grants? And we'll let our federal friends take care of that one.
Do you want me to answer that, Libby?
Yes, please do.
Sure. So right now the president has a request for his FY17 budget. Congress was to pass the budget by October 1st. They have not, and so we are on a continuing resolution. We're hoping after the election is over they will pass a budget. What we requested, the president requested, was $350 million, which would be $250 million for the 4th and final year of the current preschool development grant program, and $100 million to start the new program. In the two spending bills that we've seen so far, from both the House and the Senate, they've only had $250 million, which we're grateful to be able to have as a possibility, but that would likely cover the current program, the 4th year, but we won't know until Congress passes a budget, which means that probably in FY18, fiscal year 2018, the new president would request from Congress funds for the new preschool development grants. But all of this is just speculative because we don't know the budget that Congress will pass.
Thank you, Stephen. We have an interesting question about maybe providing a vision for the joint professional development that you described, Libby. Our questioner actually has found that joint PD between school personnel and child care providers is sometimes challenging. I don't know if you have further recommendations that you might make there, or if you'd like to address that question.
Well, I think you all at the local and the state level are the experts. We would defer to you because you're there on the ground and see what's working. You know, I have found that in some states, when they do open up their professional development, it has been helpful. but it's been in states where there has been more work going on, and where BA's a degree and certification is required of preschool teachers. So there's been more probably continuity between the teachers. You have to play it by ear. Obviously, there's certain things that all teachers need, and then there's certain things that teachers that have been in the field longer need, and there's certain provisions and training and mentoring and coaching that newer teachers need, and then teachers without BA degrees, we want them to be working toward those degrees so they can get a degree and a certification, as well as a better salary. So yeah, I would rely on your own judgment. It does make a difference when a school opens up their professional development to the community, even if it's not exactly right. It makes a statement that we know that you're taking care of children that or you're teaching children who are coming to our school, and we recognize that. We think you're important. So I'd try it in different ways and see if we can make it work.
Thank you, Libby. And I'm sure Lori may pipe in here as well, but regarding best practices in professional learning and professional development, we know that having teachers have time to talk across grade levels is a very important component to bringing a school in need of improvement along, and have found that, as challenging as it might be, certainly the connection of Head Start teachers, preschool teachers, and child care providers where preschool is in that child care center is an important alignment strategy. Another question that our feds may be able to respond to, and this is a K-12 and ESSA plan schedule. When do states actually need to submit their final plan under ESSA?
I don't know the exact date, but we can certainly find out.
And there seem to be, Lori, you can also pipe in here. I think that there are some preliminary requirements for a first submission in March, which many states are aiming for, like those states that we heard from on today's call. But there will be additional opportunity in the 17 year to submit plans as well.
Right, we've been told, we'll put this up on our website, the timeline. Our understanding is that there will be an end of March submission or opportunity to submit plans with feedback from folks at the Office of State Support, and then another July opportunity, remembering that the ESSA plans don't go into effect until the 17-18 year. So there is some time, and I think an understanding of a process to submit the plans, to get feedback both from feds and the Council of Chief State School Officers is also organizing a kind of a critical friend review process. So please send us a specific note. At the last slide, you will also see Jana and myself's emails. You can send us a specific question. We'll get back to you on that, but we'll post a timeline on our ESSA page as well.
Thank you. And actually, all of the questions that you've submitted both during today's session and during your registration period will be recorded, and we will course through those, and where we can provide answers. We know that our time is very limited here. I do have one question that in the last couple of minutes would be great to address relative to what ESSA has to say about higher education and higher education's engagement with professional development. And that is, go ahead, Libby.
This is Libby. I don't think it speaks to that, but I will refer to Chris Ann and Stephen for further consultation.
Thank you. And we have several questions.
I think we can answer that. I can answer that. There is a specific opportunity that I think I don't want to let the opportunity go to point people out to. And it's actually in the chart in the early learning guidance. But there will be a professional development innovation competitive grant program that actually is specific for institutes of higher education to partner with local education agencies. And again, we'll put more information out there. But the National Professional Development Project is a competitive grant program authorized under Title III that provides grants to institutions of higher ed in partnership with LEAs to improve pre-service and in-service support for all educators who serve English language learners. And I know that how we support young dual language learners or English language learners was a theme of a number of questions we did receive in advance. So I wanted to point that out to you, and it is mentioned in the guidance. However, since it's a competitive grant program, the details on that are not not currently available.
Thanks, Lori.
And this is Libby. Sorry. Yeah, I thought it was over and above that. Yeah, I did talk about that aspect in Title III, and that is clearly a wonderful opportunity that we did highlight at the guidance.
So thank you all. That actually brings you, there are a number of questions actually which are addressed through different documents and a kind of FAQ that may develop over time on our ESSA site. I'm going to move us to the final slide, Lori, and let you take it from there. We've not answered all of the questions, but there were a number of questions posed before and during that have been addressed in the slides and in the guidance, and we will definitely try to make sure that we've responded. I also wanted to give a shout out to our state folks and to our federal friends, because a number of the comments actually just are sending kudos your way for including the appendices, including this great information, and it's a stepping stone toward greater work, I think. So Lori, take it away.
Sure. I wanted to do what Jana just said, thank everyone on the call for your time and interest. Clearly, we have a very strong and large community of people that care about young children, beginning with Libby and the federal and Stephen and Chris-Ann, including John King, and all of you out there. Each and every one of us are very critical. A question was, how can we, what's your best advice for making sure that we get early learning as one of the priorities that funds are expended on? And I think that really goes to what John Pruitt said in terms of engaging with your stakeholders and making sure that people do understand what is the important, what's the benefit, and why is this absolutely necessary in order to truly make every child succeed, to reduce inequities and achievement gaps. So we thank you. Please reach out to us. As Jana mentioned, we'll be providing additional opportunities to talk together, to learn from you and with you about how we can ensure that we systemically address the needs of children pre-K to grade 3, at least in an intentional way. So thanks so much, and thank you to everybody on the call.
Thank you, and tune back to our website frequently. You'll see things loaded up there, including the recording of this session. So goodbye, all.
Thank you so much.